Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the TFC live show, Season 3, Episode 16, Revolution Review, and oh, what a weekly update we have. Joining me tonight, I've got George. Hey, George, how are you?
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yourself?
Excellent. Rather well, thank you.
And Venom, David is joining us as well.
Good evening.
Hey, Venom. And Ren will be with us momentarily. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so this release, we have got Revolution Raid Review, we've got the release notes, we're going to have a discussion about the FM update, VXP Weekend, and TLCs, and a quick bug fix and tuning.
I wish we could start with the FM.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Ren.
There he is.
And there's gone.
Okay, so diving right in. Revolution Raid Review. Targets, ability to get points with a single fleet. Again, if you ran either Buckies or Hydras, you were able to go ahead and amass a bunch of points. The T8 targets, which were the campaign S targets, what they're calling them, T8 targets, high payouts with the low bonus. Again, they were paying 5 million points each, and the bonus was still at the 2 million, which I really liked. Players with half-built or split fleets were able to grind gazillions of points on lower targets, and the time to finish was still really, really good. I saw so many people out there that split up their Bucky fleets and their Hydra fleets and were just getting insane amount of points on the 60s. Did you guys see that?
Lazy people are very creative. And I say that as a compliment.
Yeah, it was good overall, I think, for ability for people to get points.
Yeah, there were a lot of really low levels out there that were able to clean up a whole bunch of stuff. So that was really good for them.
Yeah, unlike the FM, you know, it had gone back to the either seat time or coin. And even if you didn't want to use the coin, you still had options on the S targets to be able to do them. So it was good. Good choices.
Yep. Okay. Moving on to bugs and / issues, I guess is what I'm calling this. We had some Thursday morning shenanigans when the raid first started. For those of you that did not start the raid straight away, there was some seriously aggro damage on the Bucky camp. I think people were losing their Bucky flag, like not even halfway through the target, and just taking huge amounts of damage. So that was adjusted about an hour or so in. There was also an issue where the campaigns were not paying out the correct bonus. So that was corrected. Unfortunately, players had to go ahead and send in tickets to get those points back. For those of you that don't understand, I'm sorry. That's an Australian thing. Aggro means aggressive, horrible.
Excellent.
I thought it was agricultural, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's okay. There were still people were still having issues with fleets dying for no apparent reason. Now, I didn't have this. Did anybody here have that?
I did. I actually took damage when I wasn't near anything at all. It was in the Hydra target. In the top right-hand corner. If I went all the way to the top right-hand corner and then came around to loop in to get the that one long-range ballistic turret somewhere where the information is in the top right in the heads up, somewhere there. I didn't stop, but I ended up taking damage, and I was thinking, if I had stopped, maybe I would have lost the fleet like people were reporting. And I know people were reporting it in, I think it was one of the 60s targets. It was happening.
The 63 and the 83. I know the 83 for a fact.
Two?
I think it was the 63 or maybe the 65. The thing is, Kixai, this problem started in February. I don't remember that happening in the first raid, but in February it started. 3 months on, they didn't fix it. I don't think they can reproduce and fix it. So here's my one piece of advice given freely to Kixai. Whenever you do TLCs or whenever you turn those guys into map targets, retire the 83. Just retire the target, because people will be very pissed off if they're doing a TLC on timer or just collecting parts, and their fleet just explodes.
And it's not half repair time. Yep, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I know there were various people were just very frustrated, and thanks to Ren putting that video out there for healing with the boon. But if you didn't have that lead ship, then you were parked for like 5 hours until that got corrected. The other thing I did, what I put on here, was the kind of the points required. Basically, in order for you to get the new hulls, the accessories to go with the new hulls, the generic build tokens, and the assault tokens, not any new ones that were added, but just those tokens and the new toys and the 2 EXEs, it was 260 million. I mean, that's an awful lot of points. And so I threw my total up there where I was globally. I had 417 million, and I didn't get everything. I didn't need everything. And I was at like 4,000 and almost 4,100 in the world.
You mean globally?
Globally, yeah, that's my global.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up with like 875-ish, and I was still like at 160, and I was an alpha, so there were other worlds that were still,
The reality is that the player base is shrinking, and Kixeye keeps doing things to drive people away, like this week's update. We'll talk about it. They're just driving players away with stupidity. And then you see less and less players actually enjoying the game and being able to get the prizes they need to enjoy the game.
And giving Kixeye a bad name in the interim as well.
Yep. It would be nice that there's a lot of people getting a lot of points, but the facts are that it was easy to get the points this raid, and I think people seeing such high points skews the facts a little bit, where they see a lot of people with high points thinking, oh, there's lots of people playing doing well, where in fact it's not that they're doing well, there's a high point requirement and it's easy points to get. So when you compare it back to the raids before, it looks seemingly that people are doing better, but they're just not.
And that's why Rules did the right thing in focusing on not on the points, but focusing on how many people were at that level and what they could get. So they could get the Manticore and the accessories and the tokens, blah blah blah. Oh, that's 260 million points. How many people got there? Not even 10,000 people got there.
Yeah, I don't want to say that it was easy, because that's a relative term.
If you had the Buccaneer or the Hydra fleet completed, it was not hard.
Right.
It was easy at the expense of time, I think is what David was saying. If you split your fleet, you could get a huge amount of points, but you practically gave up your weekend to do it. Yep. Okay. Moving on to the prizes. First thing that just totally triggered me was the assault tokens were limited to a hold cap of 2. Now, would not have had an issue with that if I'd have known prior to. And my bugaboo with this was if somebody was 5 days into a 9-day refit, or had started a longer build and not knowing there was going to be this cap, then there were people that were actually cancelling some builds. Now, I know if everybody listened to Uncle Ren and did short refits, you wouldn't be in that situation. But sometimes when you're using tokens or you're using larger tokens, you just kind of get boxed into that corner. So this was the first time that we've seen the cap on a hull specific tokens. Every other flavor that was out there is still at 99.
I'm going to say again, and you already said, I mean, starting a long refit or ship build before the raid that doesn't end during the first or second day of the raid, it's just bad strategy, period. Full stop. Bad strategy.
Yeah, you have to have your ships planned out that your shipyard will be free at least for the end of the raid, if not before.
Exactly. Ideally, first or second day if you're going to redeem stuff for your own, but you're right. I mean, worst case, it's last day of raid, your shipyard should be free. Absolutely.
And the other thing with this, which was not something that I normally have a problem with, it was a good problem to have. I had my FM token saved, plus I had my last week's chest saved, plus I had the assault tokens, plus I had the build tokens in the raid. And so I had to sit down there for like 20 minutes and figure out when could I claim, how could I claim so that I wouldn't end up losing tokens. So there was some token management that pretty much everybody had to do this raid.
Which is a good problem to have versus not being able to complete fleets for VXP Weekend. I mean, we literally had 27 days and 10 hours of tokens that you could, if you chose, you could use to build your manticores. If you save 6 days from last week FM, if you're going to get 6 days now, 10 days of assault tokens and 5 days, 10 hours of generic tokens. 27 freaking days of tokens. My manticores, I have 4, all with the CIC, all with 1 special, all with 4 scatterguns. 0 coin.
I like it. I hope they continue the trend for the first cycle, and I just hope that we know up front so that people don't get caught. Okay, in addition to, of course, all of the other tokens that were in there, and the assault tokens and all the other fun stuff, again, they added Chameleon tokens and Inferno Dragon tokens towards the end of the raid, and Conqueror tokens. I think that was it, wasn't it?
Well, there was the Chameleon flagship token was another category, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I lost track.
Sorry?
I lost track. I was just like, I just started buying stuff. That was it.
Yeah. The one thing they did do this raid, and David and I talked about this on the pre-raid show that we did last week.
David?
Venom, sorry.
Call him by his name.
Well, I know what I want to call him, but anyway, okay. Venom. They included the Tech Up prizes, which I thought was an awesome idea. So thanks to whoever of you lot were pushing that. It gave the opportunity for a lot of players to catch up on things that they've been missing because either Tech Up wasn't repeated or they weren't able to do it. Things like Speed System 6, Siege Battery 4, Siege Targeting 4. So I was really happy to see those included.
And I'm going to say something. We're going to get to FM later on, but I'll say people who got all these Chameleon tokens with the prizes in FM this week, if you don't have the Manticore or even Skyfires or Phoenixes, could be a good option to build 4 Chameleons with the new UAV from FM and, with those tokens. It could be an option. The repair is really high, but their statistics actually look really attractive. I was doing a quick math, and they should outperform Skyfires and Phoenixes.
Interesting.
The only downside is the huge repair time. But if I didn't have any assault fleet, and I had the tokens from Raid, the Chameleon tokens, and I could get the specials now in FM, I would totally do it.
And that may be the option for, even if you just get a couple of those done to hit the lower targets, kind of like everybody was doing last time.
Yeah, they might even do the 80s. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, I just posted this in here. This popped up earlier today, and it was something that I wasn't aware of, although it does make sense. And Laredo posted this. People had issues with redeeming their points, and I just want to point out here, what Laredo is saying is that the prize redemption timer is based off what world you are in, not where you came from. So if people jumped right after the raid and went from a higher world to a lower world, it actually shortens your redemption timer, and I was unaware of this, so I just kind of put this out there for folks to be aware of. Okay, so let's jump into this week's update and the FM transition. First off, we say rest in peace to the 115 FM targets. Of course, they announced that about a month ago. They reduced the points payouts on those, and those are no more. So no more 115s. And today they announced 7 targets. So each week this month, the payout on the 111 will be reduced, and the targets will no longer be available after the May event. They also removed some items from the FM, and we'll go through the new stuff added. Right now, I know everybody's got a lot of stuff to go through on this, so let's just go left to right. George.
Oh, I get to start? Fantastic. The 111, I have an issue with it going, particularly when they threw out all those tokens because they know how many people have this stuff built. They know how many people have the Infernos. People are not ready, period. And then even if they are, even if you have your Infernos done and you're looking to do the 117s, right? With a flagship, it's about, we'll say 2 hours of damage per 117, right? That's 4 hours of damage for 1 million points. Okay. Week one, if you just take just the new engine and then the chest, that's 1.9 million points. That's 4 targets. That's 8 hours of damage with the Kodiak, 12 hours of damage without the Kodiak. That's just for 2 prizes in the FM. That's excessive, to say the least. If you go all out and you want to get everything this week, it's something like 20 hours of damage, 20 plus hours of damage with the Savage, 30 plus if you don't have the Savage. If you just want to get one of the other targets, like I split the difference in points and did like 950,000 for the MK com and the D5 com. So say 950,000, then the 700,000, then 1.2 million. This is just for tier 5, just the top one. You have the top fleets, you've invested, you've built all this crap. You have the flagship, you built the Savage. It's 12 hours of damage that you're going to be looking at. And the thing is, when you're sitting there doing the FM and you have that much damage coming in, like I have minus our repairing right now, 4 hours of damage. I'm not doing anything else in the game. I shut the game off. Why do I want? I can't take any more damage. I can't repair anything because I'm already repairing my FM fleet that I have to finish because everything's on timers and everything. So I have a huge issue. The people that were grinding are boned. The 111s, there's no good transition. I think Ren's going to go into the issue with the transition in a second, but the 112 is overpowered for what it is. And then I don't know. I have huge issues with the FM currently.
Okay, really, really good points. Ren?
I'm going to say what George told me to say. I think it's very dumb. It's very stupid. Removing the 111 without a proper replacement for that. I mean, you look at the power creep between the 103 and the 112. Honestly, the 112 is as hard as the 117. I heard stories that there is a magical path, you don't take that much damage, but I haven't seen anybody find that path, if it exists. I think it can be bullshit, maybe. It's awful. It's awful. I mean, whoever can do the 112 for reasonable damage is much better off doing the 117. And there is no real step to transition from the 103 now to the 112. It's awful. I think they got to tune down the 112 like big time. Make it make it doable for people who have the R. Because honestly, whoever invested time doing the R5 on the icebreakers got shafted. No benefit.
Yep.
No, the icebreakers cannot survive the 112. Or can barely survive, and then you do one and you have like 7 hours of repair time.
That's a really good point.
It's just like frustrating that they keep doing very dumb thing after very dumb thing, even when they do some good things in the meantime. It's just, I'm very frustrated. You can probably see that. I'm very, very frustrated right now with the stupid things they released today. The prizes, the way they're releasing the prizes, the changes in FM. It's just, a pile of shit.
Okay. Venom?
I'm perplexed. There's a time and place for everything, and they have the numbers in front of them. They know how many.
Are you a Van Halen fan? Because that's a Van Halen song. Starts right just like that.
Not yet, no.
Okay.
They have the stats. They have the knowledge of who has what fleet, how many people have it, what the damages are, and yet they still increase damages further without giving us really anything that will help cut that down. I could understand if we got the new flagship for the Dragons and it gave great bonuses, better than what the Savage Kodiak's going to give you. I could understand the damage going up there slightly, but to increase the damages from what they were already at it's just making no sense. It pushes more people away. It pushes the people who are willing to dump their money into it. They're pushing them away as well. And it's in my opinion, it's just very poorly thought out and very badly executed. Very, very badly executed.
Yeah, to Ren's point, I tried about 8 times on the 112 because it says, right path with the Zealous mono fleet, blah, 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 blah. I tried multiple paths. I'm not a perfect driver, but I'm also not an idiot. And after about 8 attempts of not even being able to complete it, I finally said, bugger this, somebody's going to have to come up with a magic route. And so, the whole Zealous mono thing, I am calling BS on that unless somebody can come out with a video for it. And, I only have 3 Dragon Stun. So last week I just tossed a movie in and autoed a bunch of 82s, which was fine because I didn't need gazillions of points. But now I'm in a situation where I've got 3 and a bit in Inferno Dragon Stun. The 115 is gone. The 111 is going to be gone-ish. I'm going to be relegated to a serious amount of C time.
That sucks.
George, you had another point?
I did. I actually got 3 messages after I did my little thing there, and one point that is actually really good is the numbers I tossed out were based on my ability to perform in the 117s, and I was reminded rather colorfully in a couple of these that not everyone can do them for just 2 hours of damage. Some people are taking like 5 and 7 hours of damage per target on their dragons for one target. So that's one point that I think needs to be brought up, because when I was doing them for like 30, 40 minutes of damage, other people were doing them for like 2 hours of damage each then. And with the escalation of the damage, I think it's pushed a lot of people out of even wanting to attempt the 117. As for the 112, I'll tell you in 2 weeks when my monoliths are done to R5, if it's even possible, because I don't think that you can do it unless they're at max level. And even then, I think you can be taking the same amount of damages as you do in the 117. And at that point, why are you going to spend a month retrofitting your monos?
And like I said, there's no intermediate step. I mean,
yep, exactly.
If you can do the 117, you can do the 112. If you cannot do the 117, you cannot do the 112. So you got to go from the 103 to the 117.
In addition to those points, the people who are more than likely going to be using the monos and the icebreakers are those who haven't been able to get to the dragons or haven't got them built yet. They're being slowly built. And to force them to spend a minimum of 30 days to even have a chance in the targets is a bit of a joke.
Yeah, I was pushing everybody to go FM, even over raid fleets, tokens, what have you. If you don't have the dragon, get it, because if you don't get it and you get behind, you're just never going to be able to catch up. Okay, let's go ahead and move on here. So let's take a look at the new goodies that came out with the FM. First one is the Assault Battery MK-Com. This is an interesting special because this is the first time where we've seen a battery type thing that's giving us 2 damage buffs, one of them being penetrative and one of them being corrosive, as well as the building and wall damage. So I'm liking this one. And George, I think it was you that pointed out that said that there's no restriction on what hole this can go on.
I didn't, but I did notice that myself. I wasn't the one that noticed it. I'm really curious to know how that all stacks.
From what I've seen, you can fit it onto a missile cruiser. Just replace it over the slot you had, say, garrison battery, and it works fine.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, Venom. I thought that was George. So again, chubby special, but some really good.
It's lighter than Siege Battery.
Yep.
Because it only affects weapon weight and not total weight.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, the one thing I wanted to say, we were talking about that here on the Hangout before going live. This is not a good special for Skyfires or any other UAV carrier, because the penetrating damage or the corrosive damage will not help the UAVs. UAVs are only helped by UAV damage statistic or building damage statistic. So you're actually, for the Skyfire, you're better off with Siege Battery 4. And if you have a spare slot, Siege Targeting 4, the penetrating corrosive damage here will not help your UAV, even if your UAV has penetrating or corrosive damage in it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so that's the assault battery. Moving on now to the new armor. Yeah, Kix, of course, last week made an announcement, or a week before, about how, no, it was last week, about how charged armor is not going to be as effective in the raid. That doesn't mean that charge armor is useless. Basically, what they're saying is your pool is pretty much going to be useless. And so this is the new armor that's come out this week. A couple of points. This not charged does add armor points. Does give defense. There are no deflections, and has a lovely 22-minute repair time.
Yeah, and on top of that, it has a worse repair coefficient than the ship it's going to be going on. I mean, this is horrible in every which way. The weight's ridiculous. The repair duration's ridiculous. This is just a mess. This should never, ever, ever have come out like this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pull out Ren's bullshit flag on this one, because damn.
Yeah, not liking the 1 day 8 hour build time either.
Yeah,
that too.
I'm gonna pull up BS flag out too. It looks almost as if they've removed the limited bonus, so you don't have to collect them one by one, and there's only a certain amount you can get. But to counteract that, they've added ridiculous stats and an annoying repair time.
But if they're gonna do it, they have to at least follow what they did with the other one. And I understand the other one's a charged armor, but it has no repair time. It doesn't weigh like this. It still does the dual defenses. I mean, this is horrible. This is absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I was expecting a C1 com, right? Like we had the C1 CR where you get both bonuses. You get the armor pool, which I get, it's useless, whatever. But you also get the 20 ship and 20 structure deflection, which are both absent on this one, right? And you don't get the repair time.
Yeah, that's another point too, yes.
So it may not look like much, but having the extra 80, when you put 4 armors, having the extra 80 ship and structure deflection make a difference. You know?
I mean, we've already talked in the past as well. Like, you know, these ships are coming out with insane amount of repair time.
Yep.
And the map targets are not tuned to go back to non-half repair time. They were supposed to originally, you know, they always told us, goes to the map, we're going to tune them down because it's not half repair time. Bullcrap. That has never happened. And on top of it, now you're going to go from 3 hours of repair to
4 hours and a half times 5 ships. So now we're going to have,
that's insane.
During raid, we're talking about 11 hours of repair if you happen to be sniped by a fleet of subs when you're doing your raid.
Or you run into the Kraken and a target and you just die.
11 hours.
Yep.
When you have a flagship and 4, if you choose to use this armor. After raid's over and you decide to use that fleet in the future to collect titanium, when something happens, you get sniped, 22 hours of repair. Honestly, that's more than enough to make me want to quit the game. I'm extremely frustrated with that crap.
Well, the other thing too that concerns me is that with charged armor and the way that the damage has worked in the past, we've had the ability to pull out and recharge that armor. Are they adjusting the targets?
I
Good question.
I mean, with the way that they tuned the Buccaneer target, you know, that one was more resistance than charge, and they were already kind of heading towards that over the course of this raid set. I just don't know why they jumped track this much for this armor. I don't know. But
Yeah.
Okay, George and I have to go.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
Have a good night, everybody.
Rest of the show, guys. Bye.
Okay, well then let's go ahead and move on to the penetrative resistors. These are the new resistors that came out in the FM. These are a limited item, redeem limit of 0 of 1. Kix has said that we can only claim one of these per week, which doesn't really work out if we have 5 ships for the raid, depending on when the raid is.
The feeling of this is they only expect the majority of players to have 3 of the raid ships done by the raid. That's generally the way it works. But it's still a problem for those who want to build all of them at once. And I don't know why they've done it. And there's not much sense in it, but it seems just they're looking to get the cap of 3 for the raid, and then you can get the rest. Basically, have the full fleet for the second raid. And
Yep. The other
a point in the stats. I was looking into the stats for the current CIC we've got, and a tip for anyone: you're probably going to want the pen resistors for the scattergun version, and most likely the corrosive for the penetrative version.
Yep.
Just because there's a 60% corrosive buff on the CIC this time.
Yep, that makes sense. The other thing that I noticed, and I've not got an answer on it yet, it says it's Forsaken, but the text shows that it's Draconian. So hopefully we'll get an answer on that soon. Again, bonus combat speed, turn speed, and map speed. I think it's a little less than if you've got your speed systems already maxed out, but I think the bonus with the evade as well as the defense is going to make it well worth doing that. Okay, and the sister version to that, of course, is the Corrosive Resistors. Same thing, although this time it's the Corrosive Defense. Again, this one is also limited, and you can claim 1 per week. Same build time, same weight. This one, of course, just shows the Corrosive Defense bit that's added on that. Okay, moving on to the Andrina UAV. This one gives damage type penetrative, but although, as Ren said just a little while ago, this is not buffed by penetrative buff from specials. It's only ones that specifically say UAV damage. This one is generalist only. It gives about 2,600 damage on it. And I think this is where Ren was talking about potentially looking at the Chameleon with this and the associated specials for maybe some of the lower targets. Any thoughts on that, madam?
The brief statistics I've seen, it looks like it's pretty good. Sort of borderline mid to almost high. I would dread putting it into an A set, but it might be possible at least 1, if that. But if you didn't get the new raid ship, this is definitely a good option to look at. I wouldn't rule it out, and I wouldn't put past them that they're going to work some targets for the generalist, seeing that they're pushing it so hard as well.
Yeah, that is a good point. And plus, well, if you were struggling and could not get the raid hull, then I doubt that you were actually going out there and getting the Chameleon tokens. But maybe they'll rerun the Chameleon campaign that we just had.
I hope they do.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the Assault CIC. Okay, so this one's giving additional penetrative and corrosive damage buffs, as well as the standard building and wall. It gives a corrosive defensive buff, and this is where you were talking, Venom, about choosing the right resistor.
Yeah, the resistors in this one are a little bit more tricky to work around since it's giving you both the pen and corrosive defenses. But you're going to have to look very closely at your defense stats as a fleet without the resistors on, and then choose your resistor afterwards to make sure you're picking definitely the right one. And I'd do that before even claiming the resistors from the FM. Check what route you're going to go down with your fleet build first, without any of the resistors on, and then pick a resistor from that.
Yep. Special abilities for this one applied to each chameleon in the fleet has the duplicate aura cap of 5, so will apply to itself. Gives additional corrosive and penetrative defense as well as additional speed. Okay, so let's talk about the VXP Weekend. A couple of changes this time around and a couple of points to make. This one runs, of course, from tomorrow, 9 a.m. through until Monday, the 23rd at 9 a.m. The robots, raiders, unidentified raiders, assault style will spawn.
I think we lost you there.
Oh, can you take it?
We just lost what you said there.
Will only spawn from Friday morning until Saturday night. And if you complete that target, it will go ahead and pay out 3 of the Defender VXP tokens. So for those of you that are still looking to go ahead and rank your Defender fleets, this is how you do it. If you can kill these targets, even with some of your older fleet Skyfires, these are the ones that you want to go ahead and get the tokens. Of note, during this VXP weekend, the salvage and elite targets will not have an increase in payouts for VXP. So rather interesting.
Yeah, just for anyone that was panicking about the VXP tokens being in raid and possibly not being in the VXP weekend, I'm very glad that they decided to keep the VXP tokens for defenders there.
Yeah, I rely on those. I fill up even if I don't need them. I fill up. It's really nice to be able to just instantly rank a defender hull. So, speaking of the new assault style targets, this is something that Kix has done. This is the first time in the raid cycles that we've seen this in a long time, and I'm very happy that they did this. They have actually given us a little bit of heads up about what we're going to see in the VXP target and what we're going to see in the actual raid. The first new item that we've got is what's being called a turret carrier. These are new ship mount powerful base defense turrets. So we've now got building turrets on ships. You have to destroy the turret before the hull itself can be targeted. So in other words, you can't go kill the hull and sink the turrets. You have to actually take the turrets out first. Turrets cannot be targeted by torpedoes, and we'll see more and more of these in the assault cycle targets. So Venom, your thoughts on these new guys?
I am really intrigued on the mechanic of the ship itself, whether or not it's going to follow your ships like all other ships will, or if it's going to do a set determined path, almost like the little drones were doing in last raid. If it follows your ship, the driving can be similar almost every time, but if it's sort of on a set path, it may lead to some rather interesting strategies and driving paths to get around it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I blew this up before I put it on the slides. It looks like we've got some kind of executioner on the front of the hull, and I think that's a scatter on the back of the hull. And if that's the case, one would think logically, based on what we see in the game, of course this is Kix, but logically the scatter is probably going to have a shorter range versus the missile.
The other thing to point out there as well is these will be moving, and if they set the scattergun turret so that the range is just on the edge of your ship range, it's going to be very, very difficult not to take damage.
Yep.
So they really need to make sure they tune that very well, or we're going to be very sore.
Cuttlefish just made a really good point. Why can't he put them on his Hyperion? That's a good question. I'd like to put them on my Hyperion as well. Okay, so moving on to the next new guys. These are prototype weapons, and then look on the ammo carriers. So these are the new enemy ships in these targets that have a longer range, are equipped with Draconian prototype weapons. These weapons deal more damage and can have special effects. Weapons have a limited supply of ammunition. So 2 key points there is longer range. So that tells me right now that we're going to need antis on our ships. We've got a Savage Kodiak, which is, a prototype Kodiak, which is obviously a missile hull, as well as we've got the Interceptor that's in there. So these are looking like they're going to spit out some serious missiles, and I'm seeing charged armor on these.
Yep. Well, I'm not sure if that's the charged armor or if that's the reload effect. I'm thinking it's more the reload effect.
That may be.
Once it runs out of ammunition and you've killed the reloading ship itself, then you should, in theory, be fine. It should, in theory, stop firing at the point. If you remember back to the garrison raid for the Esset, it's probably going to be something similar to the ships we had in them, where the missiles were firing from a huge range. If you can remember back that far.
Yep. Yeah, so that definitely answers the will I need antis in this raid set. But in looking at the images, though, both of those, if I drill down on them, both of them actually look like they're some type of missile. Now, the damage may be different, but they do both look like they're missiles.
Yeah, they're both missile hulls, so
yep,
you assume they're missiles.
Okay, so we've talked about the weapons, and they talked about them running out of ammunition or having a limited supply of ammunition, and so that brings up the next one, which is the Draconian ammo carrier. When prototype weapons run out of ammunition, they're reloaded by a Draconian ammo carrier. As long as the carrier is in combat, it will reload ships on the same map. Prioritizing fire on the ammo carrier will prevent the Draconians from being able to reload their prototype weapons. So obviously, odds are that we want to get this taken out quickly as possible. I guess it depends on how well it's protected and what it's protected by. Are we going to have to fight through a bunch of ships to get to this first, or where is this going to be?
Yeah, hopefully not in the very back. It'd be most disappointing. But again, kill it, and eventually the other ships should stop firing and make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, I have visions of having a very fast ship being chased around by a bunch of other ships trying to get to this thing.
Yep.
Yep. So those are the new things that Kix has brought up. Again, glad to see that they have 75 ships. Yeah, 78. I hope not Exile. Again, Kix has shared this with us. I'm really happy that they did this, because it now gives us the ability to kind of have an idea of what's coming up. And I certainly hope that they continue to do this with each new raid cycle, so that we have some idea of what's going on. Again, these will probably be in the VXP targets, or at least that was what I took from the notices that they gave us in the release notes. So pay attention to what you're seeing, even if you're taking in a different ship like Old Phoenixes or Skyfires, just to kind of see how these targets act and what we're seeing.
Yeah, and again, this is hopefully they do put them out as a VXP target, and we do get an indication of what sort of direction we need to build our ships towards. And I really do hope that they don't change too much from what's actually going to happen in the raid itself.
Yep. And they've, for the last couple of cycles, they've actually been pretty good. I mean, I got to give them props. They've changed the targets around a little bit, but we haven't seen, other than new emitters being added, we didn't really see a huge change from the VXP targets all the way through to charged armor, the Legion map co-ops that they had all the way through to the range. I mean, damage changed, but the core turrets themselves, I want to say, pretty much stayed similar. At least that was my impression.
Yep, that was my impression too.
Yep. So again, this is assault targets. These are the new ones that we're going to see. We're starting off on the assault raid here in May, so we're working towards that. And this I'm just going to pause here for a second, because this opens up a discussion that we were having prior to going live on the show. And the $1 million question that everybody is waiting for the answer on is, when are we going to see the TLC for the Scorpion equipment for the Manticores? VXP is this weekend. We've got a bunch of TLCs this week. You know, are we going to see that TLC next week, or are we going to see it the week after? How much time are we going to have if somebody wants to go the missile route? You know, if you're fitting a ship, I mean, we all know that if you're fitting a ship for scatters versus missiles, they're two completely different builds. And so there's very little that you can do kind of in prep waiting for that.
Yep. The only good thing I see is that we have one hull to rank. So unlike the Hydras, we have the hull already. We can get it ranked. It's they really can't afford to put the TLC the week before the raid. It's just it looks like it's going to be the skill version. Looking at the stats of the stuff we've got at the moment, and the majority of people will be looking to build that specific version. So they really need to put it far enough from the raid that we're not going to be forced to coin all of it.
Yeah, and that is a good point. And I've said that to other people because they're like, well, it's still two ships. It's not technically two ships. You may need to refit the weapons and specials off of it if we do have a delay in the TLC, but you're still not having to build and rank those initial hulls. So that, you know, that is a good point. Now, if you're somebody that wants both, then yes, you could go ahead and still build two ships. But what kind of concerns me is I you know, the scatters is kind of like the bull in the china shop. I like trying to finesse. So, you know, when do I cut my losses, make the decision, and go ahead and say, okay, I need to build a scatter one and then refit it later.
Yeah, I'm hoping they put enough tokens in that it's not too bad. But again, they really should be looking into what hulls or what versions of the hull people will be looking at most to have, and I'm pretty sure the majority are going to be looking to have the skill version rather than the auto version. And so they really need to be looking into putting the skill version in raids first and letting us get the auto version after.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Okay, well, that's some good things. I mean, I'm hopeful that we'll see it next week. I mean, my stop loss is if I don't see it next week, I'm just going to go ahead and start building my scatter version because I'm still got a couple days left on my Inferno Dragon. Okay, so that's it for the new Assault Style and VXP Weekend targets. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the TLCs that we've got this week. We've got 4 of them. They are all repeats, but they are a couple of them are pretty good. The first one is the Abyssal Invasion TLC. This is the second time I think this is run, or maybe the third. Runs from today through until next Wednesday. Note that it's at noon when it stops next Wednesday, not Wednesday night. I guess we've had some issues with TLCs that have finished at midnight on before update day, so that's now set at noon. Skirmish targets aimed at Hunter, Fangtooth, or Proto Tideseeker fleets. A quick tip here: if you did earn the free Proto Tideseeker hull, even if it has 0 rank on it, toss that bad boy in with your hunters and do the TLC that way. Did a repair, just fired it off, and it went really well. If you do want to restrict your damage or take time driving, you can, of course, go ahead and do that. Prize Pack 1 gives us 2 one-day Conquest Yard tokens. That's the yard tokens only for building the actual yard itself, not hulls in the yard. And the KB1 Kinetic Buffer. Prize Pack 2 gives the Penetrative Overlay, really, really good for your base right now, especially with all the MSCs coming through. And then we've got Structure Build tokens, 2 days and 1 days, as well as the Conquest Yard tokens. Now, you have to be careful if you're doing this TLC in addition to doing your weekly so that you don't end up getting too many of the single day tokens and boxing yourself up and losing those.
Yep.
And Prize Pack 3 is the D1TR transformer, as well as the new trap, the Unstable Magnetic Zone. Not real thrilled with that, but I'll let David speak to that in just a second. And then 3 more one-day Conquest Yard tokens.
Yeah, just on one point about the tokens, and just throwing the idea out there, we're ending up with a lot of tokens that we can't use. Specifically, if you have the Conquest Yard built, you've got a load of random Conquest Yard tokens lying around that you can't use. I've seen the same with Ligantry tokens as well, where you end up with Ligantry tokens that you can't use either. I feel like they should try and put a system in where you can almost trade your tokens for something that's actually useful, instead of just having a load of random tokens filling up space that you don't need.
Yeah, we've asked about this, and I know many others have asked about this. I mean, I've got a gazillion Ironclad tokens I'm never going to use, and Apollo tokens, and things like that. If I could, even if I could turn in, like 3 one-day tokens and get like a half-a-day generic build token, just something to either A, get rid of them, and B, kind of make something off of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we've put in the effort to get the tokens, but there's no use for them. So it would be nice to be able to put the work in to get something and then have a use for it as well.
Yes, it would be.
That specific TLC, the Prize Pack 2, very helpful, very good special. The Prize Pack 3, that gate I have seen twice, and both bases that I've seen it in have immediately taken it off. I don't think that's terribly good in any sense.
Yeah, the Transformer's not bad though.
The Transformer is good. So it's definitely worth doing the price pack. It's just before anyone goes out getting all the base parts and putting that gate in, have a chat around with some people and see what they think about it. I don't think it's worth even looking at.
And I will give Iris's expert technical opinion here. He said that the gate is a pile of donkey poo. So there you have it, folks. No, agreed. I saw a couple of them during Bounty that were there maybe for like an hour and then they disappeared. So not something that is useful as of this time, but does not mean that it won't be in the future.
Yep. Just because something isn't useful at this present moment doesn't mean, as you just said, it won't be useful in the future. We may get something which a ship perhaps with weapons which will be affected highly by this gate, but it's still to be seen.
Yep. And it's amazing how creative we are in that someone will come up with something using something from like 3 or 4 years ago. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's
just while we're talking about the sort of PvP end of things there. I think it was Bite Me had a point in chat there that the MC Plate 1 has vanished from the FM. So one of the best armors we had, and probably the most required one for PvP at this time, is no longer available. So if you didn't get it, you're out of luck.
Now that's interesting because that wasn't in something. I wonder if that's an error.
I'm hoping it's an error, because someone who hasn't got it will really be looking for it if they want to do anything in PvP, because it is required. And even for your base defense, it is a requirement to have on specific hulls. So I do hope it's an error that it's supposed to be in there, but I don't. I've checked as well. I haven't seen it there either.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up on that. So when we get an answer to that, we'll certainly go ahead and share that. Okay, that's the Abyssal TLC. Let's move on now to the ever popular March of War TLC, the one that just makes me want to walk outside and give up. This, of course, is the skirmish targets aimed at the Fangtooth fleets. I know this is everybody's favorite, but you can't walk away from the 5 3-day Conqueror class build tokens. I mean, that's the only reason why I do it, and I will do it again and again and again. But yeah, not my favorite campaign. Of course, Prize Pack 1, Siege Reloader 2, plus Eviscerator VXP. Prize Pack 2 gives the Chaos Chain Gun. This is something that is used all over the place for folks. So if you're finishing up your Fang fleets, give this a go. That gun really comes in handy. Then Prize Pack 3, we've got the Kinetic Motion Cannon, which of course is the Omega weapon for on top of your OP. And then the mastery round, which you can repeat 5 times if you're really a glutton for punishment, gives you the Eviscerator as well as the 3-day Conqueror class build token, as well as the Eviscerator VXP token. So that gives you a total of 15 days of Conqueror tokens. Again, they are not hull specific. These can be used on any Conqueror. So, of course, get it done if you can.
Yeah, this is probably the best and worst TLC in the game because you really want the prizes, but doing the prize packs is just painful and slow.
Yes, and in addition to when there's another TLC that requires the same fleets as well. I know last time when they were doing this, I kind of had to juggle my fleets a little bit.
Please, Kexai, here are bags. Change it to something that's not subs. For the love of goodness.
Siege targets would be nice.
Yes, new siege target, that would be nice.
Yep. Okay, so that's March of War. Moving on now to a couple of the older campaigns that they're repeating. First one is Hunger TLC. This one runs from today through until next Wednesday at noon. This is requiring garrison ships for 1, 2, 3, and 5, and then Conqueror for 4 and 6. This one actually, I enjoyed this one. Not really so much for the prizes, but I didn't mind the targets. Prize pack 1 is Radium Reserves, of course, which is a turret special. Prize pack 2 is the Phlogiston Launcher, as well as Incinerator VXP tokens. And then prize pack 3, which is another mastery, you can do this 5 times, will give you 5 incinerators that will not do you any good as the way they are right now, as well as 6-day incinerator build tokens. And Venom, I'm going to let you talk about the incinerator.
The only purpose of this campaign at all is for when you get really frustrated with doing the subs and you just put your dragons into this and bully it for a while. The prizes, yeah, the turret can have some very slight uses, but the ship is a big pointless waste of time and dock space, and we do not need it at all. It's just a joke. Don't need it.
And we know this because David did build a couple of these and came over and visited my base, and way back then my puny little base with nothing in it practically melted them. So not my favorite hull and high on my list to build, but yeah, you can do it. The Radium Reserves is, I use that in my base a fair bit, so keep an eye out for that one. Okay, and the last campaign that we have in repeat is the Inquisition TLC, and this one's changed a little bit. I want to say this one used to have gluttony tokens, or unless I'm thinking of the Oppressor one that had all of the gluttony tokens in it. But this one is one where you could catch up on a lot of tokens for hulls, and don't write them off thinking, oh, I'll never build any more Inquisitors. Well, you may not build any more Inquisitors, but you may use them in your guard, and you can go ahead and refit these things. So keep an eye out for that. Prize pack 1 is Oppressor build tokens as well as VXP. Prize pack 2 is the Incinerator build tokens and VXP. Prize pack 3 is Survivor build tokens and VXP. Prize pack 4 is Liberator build tokens and VXP. And then prize pack 5 is the 5, which you can do 5 times, which is 5 of the Inquisitors, as well as 5 6-day Inquisitor build tokens. Are you still have an Inquisitor in your base, David?
I don't have it in my base, but I have one built for annoying people with subs, and it is very effective in doing that. So if you don't have a nice little sub killer, it is pretty good if you build it right. Mine's, I think, 1 coin to repair, and it can kill quite a few subs. So it's a worthwhile hull. I just don't understand why we have to go through 4 pointless prize packs just to get to it. We're never going to use.
At least it's assault, so you could use Skyfire and Phoenix and not subs.
Oh, we can use a new ship if you coin it.
Yeah, but that's not happening. Okay, so again, that runs next Wednesday till lunchtime as well. So take a look at all the prize packs in there. There may actually be something in there that you can find useful. That's it for the TLCs. Let's take a look at the bug fixes, both the announced bug fixes and I guess the unannounced bug fixes. The official announced bug fix was that they fixed an issue where the Onyx Boulderfist skin was way too large. You can see from the screenshot there, and I'm sure everybody that had these was happy about it because it made their ships look really big. That's been corrected now, so the Onyx skin has popped back to its correct size and no longer looks really big. And I take it you're not happy about that, David?
I wouldn't call it an issue. It was comical and quite funny to have, and it seemed almost like a pointless waste of time to spend your resources fixing that specific bug, but it wasn't right, and I felt they needed to fix it. Though I'm not arguing with it, but I did like seeing the amusing giant boulders.
Yeah, I always wondered if it made a difference to the hitbox. Did it?
I'm not entirely sure. I know it made it awkward for negotiating ships around it because you can highlight it easier than highlighting any other ship in the game.
Mm. Okay. And I think as a side product of that, I don't know if it's intended or not, but they actually reduced the size of the Executioner 2 missile image in the base. Those actually were a little bit bigger, and those have kind of shrunk down now.
If anything, I expected the howitzer to be increased in size rather than the executioner lowered in size. I don't understand quite that one, but
Or maybe the
okay.
howitzer was the way everything was supposed to be, and the Executioner went to the same gym that the Boulder Fist did.
Yeah, but it could be possible.
Yep. Okay, well, that's it for slides tonight. Lots to take in this week. Of course, we take a look at the FM, make sure that you understand the changes that are going to be in place for those. I know they're going to be frustrating. Everybody is going to be going through this pain and agony. I guess we're all going to have to go through it together. Just want to say thank you, David, for joining us again this week and helping out while Ren and George had to go off. And, I was really suspicious that they both left. So I think somebody posted in chat that it was date night for George and Ren. They had another meeting that they had to go to, so both had to drop off. So certainly appreciate you sharing some of your insights on the show, mate.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Well, big thank you to those of you that joined us in chat. We certainly appreciate you spending your time with us, and hopefully you got some good information. And so with that, I'll go ahead and shut it down now, and then we'll see you on Saturday, open mic at 4 p.m. Central, where you too can get on the show and share your insights and thoughts on the FM. So with that, thank you all very much, and chat with you all on Saturday.
Good night.